We are in a series called Detox. This is week 3, and we've talked about 2 different subjects, and today we're talking about a third. And what's interesting about this series is so far, I think whenever I first announced the topic of the day, I feel like a lot of people at first are like, kind of like, this doesn't sound that deep, doesn't sound that big of a deal. But then as we begin to talk about it, and kind of like pull back the layers of the subject, and you begin to look at how God's created us, all of a sudden you see the value of that word, whether it be work or rest, and you begin to see how on a daily basis you're having to prioritize what that looks like in your life. And are you working as unto the Lord, right? Are you resting as worship unto God? And what we're going to be doing today is kind of peeling back the layers of another subject. And the subject is fun. Some of you, it's your first time here, you're like, this sounds pretty weak. All right. I know. Fun. My dad, in case you don't know, my dad was pastor for many, many years and preached thousands of messages. And I asked him, I said, have you ever preached a message on fun? He's like, nope, I can't say that I have. And I would agree. I didn't think that I would, but I think you're going to learn today that, man, how kind of deep the topic of fun can go. But we're talking about detoxing. We live in a toxic world, y'all. It's a messed up world full of messed up people. It's toxic, poisonous. If you just walk through life in this world, you are going to encounter toxic issues, toxic people. And look, you could be doing just fine, but just by walking through the environment of this world, and of course, I'm not talking about air pollution right now. I'm talking about emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, we pick up things that begin to affect us in our life. And one of the things is our perspectives of things get toxic. Our perspective of work gets toxic. Our perspective of rest can get toxic. And yes, I just told you guys, but our perspective of fun can get toxic too. And so I want to show this graphic real quick as a reminder. We've shown this every single week, but this is a kind of like a diagram, there it is, of work, rest, and fun. And whenever there's balance in all 3 of these areas in our life, whenever there's fruitfulness in our life, whenever we have ample time and activities that help us to recover in life, and today we're going to talk about enjoyment, but whenever there's these 3 things in our lives and there's balance, we experience health in general. There's a sense of fulfillment. And I know it's so practical, but I'm going to be honest with you guys, many times that I talk to people and they're going through things in their life, it's amazing how these 3 areas a lot of times come up. It's crazy. And you would think, man, these are the easy things. Let's talk about the deeper things in life. I would argue that at times we need to talk about the things that we feel are more surface, because those are the things a lot of times that are causing the deeper issues in us. And let me also say this. Sometimes whenever you talk about deep philosophical, theological things, there's not always a straight line to practicality in our life, how it really affects our day-to-day living. For instance, we could talk about, philosophical things about how philosophers looked at who God was and creation, and we could talk about scientific stuff, and people would be like nerding out, like, oh, wow. But for a lot of people, that doesn't actually affect or convict their character. They don't take it home with them and apply it to how they interact with their family. It doesn't actually lead them forward in seeking the face of God, for instance. I'm just saying, a lot of times it's just brain work and it doesn't seep into the heart. But whenever you start talking about practical stuff, we start stepping on each other's toes a little bit. And God starts messing with us, and it's like, hey, you're getting a little too close to home for this. Yeah. The Word of God has high-minded things that are maybe kind of brainy, and then there's some very, very practical things that apply to our lives. And that's what today is. And so we want balance in our life, but as we've learned, balance is not inactivity. To keep your balance is a very active thing to do. All right, if I'm walking on a balance beam, guess what? there's tension, I'm having to work to keep balance. And so in our lives, whether we're talking about these three things or anything else, you're struggling day to day, week to week to maintain balance in your life. And Ecclesiastes 3:1, we've read this every week, says this: "For everything there is a season and a time for every activity under heaven." And so just like there's a time to, as it goes on to say, to be born, to die, to plant, to uproot, to build, to tear down, there's a time to work, to rest, and also to have fun. And so this week, we're talking about fun. And I want to start off with the kind of what we've done every week, which is ask the question, what is fun? What is fun? When many people hear fun, they think of just stuff that I like to do, stuff that just makes me feel good, that I enjoy doing. And that's what fun is. Like, there's really not that, there's not a, every week we've said something like, oh, people think it's this, but it's really not. Well, honestly, fun, that's exactly what fun is. It's enjoying yourself, right? It's having fun. And so if we had to define it, we could put it like this. Fun is purely about enjoyment or entertainment, we might call it that, in the moment. And it doesn't, this is a big thing for some of y'all to get, it doesn't always have some big purpose beyond feeling good. Some big, gigantic purpose. All right? Beyond feeling good. Now, I know whenever I say the word, I say these words like just entertainment and feeling good, I know we're good church people, so immediately we're like, yeah, but man, there's a lot of problems whenever it comes to feeling good and entertainment and having fun. And I know that. And we beat that horse all the time. Okay? You would think in church, if you have fun, it's a sin. I mean, that's just like, we'll get into that in a little bit. But did you know that it's not always a bad thing? All right? Some of you would ask the question, is fun really that important? Like, I understand work, I understand rest, but fun just sounds like an extra thing that doesn't have a lot of value to it. But another word to describe fun is, or it's kind of related, is play, is the word play. And a lot of times if you listen to like psychiatrists or people or psychologists talk about child development even, you'll hear them talk a lot about play. And they'll bring up this word play. And we're going to learn kind of the importance of that, but you'd say, hey, this word doesn't really exist in the Bible, so why are we talking about it? Well, in Ecclesiastes 3 verse 4, it says there's a time to laugh and there's a time to cry. There's a time to dance and there's a time to mourn. Okay? So scriptures tell us there's a time for you to laugh till it hurts. You know what I'm talking about? Like a good laugh, man. There ain't nothing like it. There's a time to dance, even if you look dumb doing it. All right? I am not good at dancing, but every now and then I try. And it's rough. There's a lot of snapping. There's a lot of clap, Like, anyway. That's all I'm going to do for that. Y'all want more? I ain't giving it to you. All right. So, but this word laugh, there's a time to laugh and a time to mourn. That word laugh can also mean play. It means literally like joking around. There's a time to play around. There's a time to have a good time. That's right. And there's also a time to mourn. Now, I will tell you this. I laugh every day. At some point, I'm going to laugh that day. I don't cry every day. I think personally, there should be more laughter than cry, okay? Like if you give me the choice between a comedy or a sad movie, we're going comedy every time, all right? My mom always tells me, but you need to cry sometimes. It's good to cry. I'm like, man, I got enough things to cry about in this world, man. I want to disconnect, But anyway, there's a time for this. And this word laugh, again, can mean play or lighthearted. It's sort of like how kids are born with the innate desire to play. You even look at animals, y'all. Man, look, they're all rumbling and tumbling and, tigers are like, they're all having a good time. Kids are the same way, want to have a good time. And I would actually argue that adults are the same. A lot of times we think that as you get older, you just don't desire to have fun or play as much. And I actually believe that that's not a normal thing, or it shouldn't be a normal thing. I believe it is a product of perhaps heaviness in life. It's a product of losing joy in life. It's maybe a product of pain It can be a product of a lot of things, but that loss of the desire to play, I don't think it's actually a normal thing. And I know this, I'm 40 now, and I don't know, the older that I get, the more fun I want to have. Because I realize just being serious all the time and everything having to go down to this like, ugh. I'm like, you could do that about every single part of life. I'm like, why? And certain people, you feel a draw to that all the time. That you have an inability to just play, to just have fun. There's something that your life, it's like a magnet, it gets drawn back to some sort of like, ugh. That's the only word I know to use right now, all right? You can Google that later, all right? But play is the act of engaging in activities for enjoyment or recreation. Okay, it's the activity, while fun is the feeling of joy or amusement experienced during those activities. All right, so there's the play is kind of like the action, and fun is sort of like the feel. And so that's why whenever you say, "Hey, what do you like to do for fun?" There's 1,000 different answers to that. Sometimes I'll ask people that, or we'll have a conversation, and they'll tell me what they think is fun, and I'm like, I want to scratch my eyes out if I had to do that, like, I just like to sit on the chair and, just look at the birds. I'm just like, okay. I feel like, Clark at Grand Canyon. It's just like, all right, here we go. It's time to, we got to keep moving here. Something else has got to be funner than this. But I love to play golf. I love playing golf. Every day, I don't know, I just don't get sick of it, right? Others of you, 3 holes in, you throw your clubs in the pond and you're going home. You're like, I'm out of here. Scratch your eyes out, right? We have different definitions of what type of play is fun, okay? So there's going to be some distinction here. But again, as we get older, we kind of, some people kind of tend to lose the desire or the ability to play and have fun. And again, a lot of times people look at it as a negative thing. You guys play around too much. This is not a place for that. And of course, there's a time and a place. There's appropriate moments for this. But as people, we've always understood that fun and play are essential parts of our makeup. Albert Einstein said, "Play is the highest form of research." It's interesting. Plato said, "Life must be lived as play." And this is in the secular world, right? But this idea is not just a secular idea. This is a sacred idea. The idea of play and fun. Have you guys ever heard of the theology of fun? No, probably not. All right. Theology of fun is the idea that fun is a gift from God that can be enjoyed as part of a Christian life. And just like work and rest can be worship, I believe that fun can be worship. Whenever you begin to take the Roman statement that everything that we do is that we are living as like a living sacrifice before the Lord, you begin to look at every activity that you do as an activity of worship as unto God. The difference is what's going on in your heart as you do it. I believe if some of you could get that in your mind and in your heart, you would be set free from this treadmill of performance, thinking that if you are not on your knees, kneeling on rice and weeping before the Lord, that you are not doing anything for God. It would set you free to realize that everything that you do is for God. And even, that's right, even how you enjoy the blessings that God has given you. So, having fun can be worship. And Paul instructs Timothy on how to view enjoyment of what God has given. 1 Timothy 6, verse 17. As for the riches in this present age, charge them not to be haughty, nor to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but on God, who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. Now, this word enjoy, the Greek word that is used here, it has to do with material pleasure, not spiritual enjoyment. Now, yes, We can always put everything under the whole umbrella. But like Paul is telling Timothy here, hey man, God has blessed you with all these things. Now he's dealing with a lot of different things in this chapter, but at this moment, he's like, side note, God who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. I believe that Paul has a mindset here of enjoying what God has given us and how it is a deeply spiritual thing. It's actually, I believe, a way that we can express gratitude to God as well. Okay, so yesterday we had our youngest daughter, it was her 7th birthday. So we had people over and had gifts, and then we, at the shower, Anthony, then they get some gifts, Could you imagine if somebody gives you a gift and it's like, you get it and you're like, all right, what else? Jerk, you know what I'm saying? Like, we'll take that back and we'll go get a refund. Why? Because there's no gratitude. Whenever I'm going through life and I begin to focus in on constantly the negative, and I am consumed with the things I don't have, and I'm consumed with all of the things in life that I begin to kind of just get, kind of falling down into the hole, what I'm convicted of is a lack of gratitude for what God has given me. That is the conviction that the Holy Spirit works in me. And I would say that, again, like I say most weeks, if the shoe fits, wear it. For a lot of people, there's a lack of enjoyment in the things of their life, and they look around, and honestly, it's not just about trying to see the positive. It's about living a life of gratitude to God, who richly provides everything for us to enjoy. And whenever we don't enjoy God's blessings upon our lives, it says something deeper about us than just a little bit of perspective change. It's like, why am I not grateful to God for what I have? You feel me on that? Like, you understand, kind of, right? So doing things that you enjoy, or for the sake of enjoyment, again, is not always sinful. All right? And I will say this, for some of you, you were raised up where it's like, always have fun, always have fun, always have fun, always have fun. But I want to speak to a second to those of you who were raised up, maybe even more in a religious environment, where it was very tight, it was very negative, it was very heavy, and you actually have grown up with this inability to just laugh, to just enjoy something for the sake of enjoying it without some sort of internal response inside of you that's like water on a fire, where you begin to feel joy, you begin to feel like just have a good time, and then all of a sudden it's like this boom, this thing hits, and you're just like, ha ha. Anybody else ever experienced that? Right? You know what I'm talking about. What is that? It could be a lot of things. It's not like I'm going to give you one answer because I have no idea. Sometimes it's the way that we're raised. Sometimes it's just the way that we've kind of grown into a certain way of thinking in our life. For some of you, you can't ever have fun or enjoy anything because you watch the news all the time, and so you're consumed with fear and anger. Okay, like it could be a lot of things. For some of you, your finances are not where you want them to be, and so you can't do anything or say anything or be anywhere without this heaviness following you around. For some of you, relationships are tough right now in your life, and it's just squeezing all the joy out of your life. It could be a lot of things. But I think that fun is deeper, and enjoying things is deeper than just, again, a surface thing. God created us to desire fun and enjoyment. And I believe He did that because it is part of His nature. He made us in His image. I don't believe that humanity developed the desire to have fun and to laugh on our own. Okay, I don't think that kids just all of a sudden just start laughing for no reason. No, I believe that it's part of the image of God that's imprinted upon us. That's why Scripture talks about it. Even Jesus, believe it or not, Jesus had fun. Y'all, you ever look back at the Jewish calendar? How many festivals they have? Man, there's like always like, man, it's party time. Let's go. You know? There's 25 different festival days. There's weddings, which weddings weren't just like a 2-hour thing where you're like, I'm going to show up late, leave early. Man, it's like a 7-day thing. There's meals and there's this and it's all day event. It's all sorts of stuff. You had weddings, meals with friends. Again, it wasn't, hey, we got a reservation at 6:30 and I want to be in bed by 8:30. Nuh-uh. No. You're going to get there at about 5, all right? You got a 7-course meal, okay? We're reclining at the table, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're going to be here for a while. We're going to enjoy this food, and we're going to enjoy one another. Do y'all know that in their culture, meals were sacred? Like, it was sacred to have a meal together. For us, we're like fast food, Chick-fil-A, let's get it going. No. The point of the meal is not really the food. It's actually what happens whenever you're eating the food. All right? Now, if you're task-oriented, work, come on, we already talked about this, but if you're like, we got to go, then you miss the fun in the meal because you got to go. You weren't allowed to do this back in the day. You might need to bring back some of this a little bit, but 52 Sabbaths, right? 52 weeks. A Sabbath, hey, you're chilling out. We're going to rest. We're going to eat together. We're going to relax, right? God emphasized regular intentional rest and fun celebrations. Okay? I believe we were made to have fun. We were made to play. We were made to socialize. In this day and age where we celebrate not socializing other than social media, which is not socializing. All right? Especially for some of you right now, you're mourning the loss of TikTok. You're mourning it, man. Look, it's a little bit dry and heavy in here today. You know what I was thinking? The weather's decent, it's not bad. You know what it is? TikTok. It's TikTok. How many of you guys cried this morning whenever you woke up to no TikTok? You did it. You felt it. You like pulled it up and it was like, sorry, you can no longer, blah, blah, blah. You were like, why? Persecution, No TikTok, man. It's bad. Yeah, just a few more days. It's probably going to get opened back up. Yeah. It's going to. Oh, gosh. Everything's connected to something else, right? But anyway, man, socialization, celebration. We were made for these things. And how one of the ways that we know that we were made for it is it actually benefits our holistic health. Whenever we are enjoying life and having fun and there's play in our life, it enhances our mental health. It reduces rates of depression and anxiety. Some of you deal with heaviness in life all the time. And there's a lot of different reasons. I'm not just pinning it on one thing. But there are some people that one of the ways to help is just to have some fun, man. Like, I'm not saying that's the fix-all, of course not, but it reduces rates of depression and anxiety. You know why? It releases feel-good hormones, endorphins, oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin. And a lot of y'all have heard all of this before, so you know that. But it improves our physical health. All of those chemicals, right? Y'all know stress hormones and all that. Man, it increases heart disease. It increases all sorts of things in our lives. If you're depressed, a lot of people, they just there's not a lot of desire for activity. And so therefore, guess what that starts doing? It starts affecting your physical body in regards to like your muscles and your joints and things like that. It's just a downward spiral, and it's a mixture of all sorts of stuff. Typically don't eat right on top of that, which it's a self-defeating, or that's a self-defeating argument. Cyclical, there's a phrase I'm thinking of, it doesn't matter right now, but it's downward spiral. It's a bad thing. Okay, moving on. And they're like, hey, that's just science. Well, Proverbs 17:22, a cheerful heart, y'all know it, is good medicine. But a crushed spirit dries up the bones. And that would describe some of you, a crushed spirit. And out of that crushed spirit, it's like, man, that's exactly what my life feels like. It feels like dry bones. Spiritually, emotionally, it's just dry. But a cheerful heart is good medicine. And you know what's also sad, y'all? Is that for many people, they experience dried up life, stale life, harsh people, no joy every day of their life. And then we come to church on Sunday. And unfortunately, a lot of people encounter dry, boring, at church too. And I think that's sad. So I know here at Northwood Church that sometimes we may be a little bit too lighthearted for some people. Like, it just wasn't deep enough. That guy said way too many jokes. We're at church. You know? Yes, that's right. We are. And we are the church. And I believe that as people who are redeemed and who are set free from the weight of sin, we should be able to have some joy and have some fun and laugh a little bit. I believe that. I'm convicted about that. In my home, guess what? I want there to be laughter. I want there to be joy. The joy of the Lord is my strength. Okay? There is a thread of truth in what we're talking about today, that there is meaning and there is depth to what's going on. And I believe that the enemy would love to also, as he does with so many things, twist something that God has created for our good, convert it into something that feels like we shouldn't do it, in order to lead us down a path of heaviness and depression and whatever, right? In order to cause us to be people who are just, we're underneath the weight. And it might not be the weight of sin. It's just a heaviness. Many times, so I've led worship for many years, going back to when I was a kid. And every time that I led worship, and still do sometimes, I believe that whenever we come together to worship, it's a very spiritual thing. I don't think it's just about the beat of the song and about the lights and all that kind of stuff. That's all secondary. We as people of God, we are created spirits of God. We come together and we are temples individually. We come together and we form a temple, okay? And we just kind of said it. We built an altar to God. Not physically, okay, but like as we come together to worship God. And a room, the atmosphere in a room is affected by all of us individually. And there's many times where I would say, or I'd be thinking, and I've said it a few times whenever I'd be encouraging the crowd, like stop the song, kind of get in a moment where we're between songs and just say, hey guys, listen, I feel like there's just a wet blanket that's been put on this place right now. I don't know how else to explain it. It just feels like it's just, and I'm not talking about emotions necessarily right now. I'm talking about a spiritual thing. And the Bible says put on a garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. Right? Now, we don't have like a robe that we put on that represents that, but we praise God. We express worship to Him. We're going to be talking about this in a couple of months. We're going to be going through some Psalms. And it's one of the ways that God has instructed us through His Word to like throw off those restraints, to throw off that heaviness, and to experience the joy of the Lord in our life through worshiping Him. Why? Because we were created for that. Like, it's in us. We were designed for it. And so whenever we do things in accordance to what God tells us to do, we're going to experience things that we're not going to experience, sometimes Monday through Saturday. Now, you can, but I'm just saying, like, when we come together, like, if we have this mindset of expressing worship and joy, and if we come together as the people of God, realizing that we are set free, and if this is truly what we believe, I just think it gets expressed in facial expressions. I think it gets expressed in anticipation. Anticipation. Whenever I am excited about something, I anticipate showing up. Okay? And one of the ways that you can really understand whether or not you feel joy or excitement or fun surrounding the things of the church is, do you anticipate gathering together with the people of God, right? Like, is there anticipation? Whenever you have to miss church, are you curious as to what's going on? You know, like one thing about live feed, if I'm on vacation or whatever, guess what? I'm like, it's like, okay, it's 5, the countdown starting. And it's like, I want to know what's going on. Why? My friends are gathering together. The people of God are gathering together. I don't feel that about a bunch of other churches. I think it's great, but why? This is our church. And so there's an anticipation. I enjoy seeing you guys. I enjoy walking around, high five. Dude, what happened? Da, da, da. It's enjoyment. It's no different than anything else that you enjoy in life. Play golf a lot, right? If the tee time's at 10 or 12 or whatever, if you show up right on time, it's frowned upon. 15 minutes before, hey, where you at? Where you at, man? We're warming up, man. Come on, where you at? Yeah. All right. You can't be 5 minutes late. What are you talking about? 5 minutes late? Been waiting in the parking lot for you, man. You know, I'm just saying. And y'all all have something in life that's exactly what happens, man. We got a reservation for dinner. Let's go. Concert starts at this time. What's up? Come on, man. We got to get going. Let's go have fun. Anyway. All right. Okay. One more thing about this. Okay. I'll just talk about my life. My life. You know, church back in the day generally was very heavy, and for some people, not really our church, but just in general, it was very boring, pretty boring. And then in America, we begin to shift over into we can have fun in church. Like we can laugh, we can do events, and we can enjoy. And then something's happened in the last 15 years, 10 years, where that began to get converted to something negative, where it was like, well, now church is all about consumerism and just trying to please people and just trying to get big crowds. And the result of that is where anything that's enjoyable for many people is looked at as consumeristic and it's frowned upon. And so what's going to happen in church is you're going to see a generation of people who maybe experienced a lot of fun in church, they would put it that way, but it didn't feel right. And now they begin to shame fun in church and all that. But then there's going to be another generation that comes up only knowing that again, and then they're going to respond and then want to have, like, can we enjoy one another again? Like, because now it's all about, like, it feels like a college course every time you go to church. There's no, like, are we people? Like, how are you? You know, it loses that. And I'm just saying that culture tends to go back and forth on a pendulum. What I want to do is have fun, and also can we be reverent too? I think about Night of Worship last week. Man, we had fun. All right, it was a good time, and it was very reverent. Let's be a both and church, not just an either or church. All right. So, fun is a gift from God, but fun can become toxic when it becomes indulgence. In every single thing that God has given us, there's always a trap. Not because God made it that way, because the enemy has perverted, because sin has counterfeited it. And so this is what a lot of times it happens. People begin to look at fun and they begin to look at play, and it's, what do I do for fun? What do I do that makes me feel good? And whenever the play involves things that are self-indulgent and sinful, that's where fun becomes toxic. And pretty much all of us know what that looks like. That's why I said, man, we beat that horse all the time. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because we have to fight it a lot. And there's a lot of people that they begin to have fun in life and they begin to play, and then their life becomes all about that. And then they just want to push the envelope. They want to do this, and it begins to go into a place where all of a sudden, you know, whether it be their character or their career or their marriage or their kids or what, things in life begin to get shaky because the play, which in the beginning was not sinful, it wasn't, all right? Now it's becoming. And guys, listen, it's not always that the activity is immoral. It's not always that the activity is immoral. It's the priority of it. It's the amount of it. It's the out of balance of it that brings in toxicity into someone's life. And that's why we show that diagram and kind of the balance, because in the last 3 weeks, some of you, you're naturally built for work. But it could get out of balance. It could become an idol in your life. For some of you, rest. You're naturally built to rest. No problem there, right? But you're always aware of that, and man, you focus on that. There's lots of time for, like isolation and solitude, and your mind is still, but like are you being, fruitful in life, but then you don't have any fun. And then other people, they have fun and they don't really do the others. And I'm just saying, all of these things are gifts from God, and they all matter, but we have to look at it with biblical eyes and what we do. I said not everything is sinful. 1 Corinthians 6, Paul talks about how, everything's permissible, but not everything's profitable. For some of you, that's two words you need to take away today. It's like, man, things are permissible, but are they profitable? And how much? And what's my spouse say? What is this producing in my life? There's got to be contemplation, and I can't put those things on you. But by the way, we taught in November, and we talked about legalism and lawlessness, and how we're on this spectrum, and some people are very legalistic, right? It's all about the rules. Don't break the rules, don't break the rules, don't break the rules. And so they're very, very tight. And then there's other people over here like, man, hey, Jesus has set us free. And they're like, woo. And they have like no boundaries. There's no sort of, you know what I'm saying? And those are extremes, and we're not called to live in extremes. There's a balance. There's a tension. There's a middle. And listen, in this place, in this church, we have a large spectrum of people, of the way that we were raised, different ways that we interpret the Bible around certain, activities and stuff. And, we're pretty clear. We have an honor code here that's very, very broad. If you go through New It and see or join a team, you'll see it. It's like, hey, just not break the law. All right? I feel like that's pretty biblical. All right? Sexual immorality, very straightforward. It's the scripture. Hey, let's not do any witchcraft. How's that sound? No seances and casting of spells. Stay away from that. Well, I want to cast spells. All right. We're not being legalistic in these things. However, we want to be in alignment with what the Word of God says. Okay, so if you have any questions about that, you can go back to November. But the last 2 weeks, we mentioned the idea of cultivating an environment for work and rest. And in the same way, we cultivate an environment for fun. All right? We cultivate an environment in our lives for fun. And so here's a couple of questions for you to kind of evaluate where you're at. Number one is this: what do I do for fun? I know it's not very spiritual for some of you, but for some of you, this is actually deeply spiritual. You realize when I ask the question, what do you do for fun? You don't do anything for fun. There's nothing in life that you do that's actually fun. And I would argue that you probably need to look for something to do. You were created for it. To do it with the right heart, do the right activities, you know what I'm saying, all in balance. But number two is, who are some people that I can have fun with? For some of you, that's probably the more. You have certain things you like to do. Maybe you don't have the right people in your life anymore, and so it's hard for you to find that crew. Hey, a small group might be that crew. But who am I having fun with? I want to say this. Some of you in your marriage, you don't have fun in your marriage. And that's why your marriage stinks. You don't have fun. Dating. Oh, we're having fun together. Oh, this is so good. I only want to be with you. I can't stop thinking about you. And we do so many things together. It's so great. And get married 5 years in. It's like a daily thing. For a lot of people, man, you don't laugh together. You don't have fun together. If you need to learn how to have some fun, you got to hang out with the Castiglias. You know what I'm saying? The Castiglias, man. Yeah. Anytime I think about a couple that has some fun, like Mike and Karen, you got to keep joy in your marriage. You got to keep joy in your family. Yeah, I know it's heavy, and I know there's a lot of stuff not to be joyful about. I know that. But if you wait for everything to be just in line and perfect till you start having fun together, you ain't ever going to have fun, because there's always something that's messed up and broken. Just saying. Have some fun. And I'm not talking about a $10,000 vacation or something crazy, outlandish. Like, no, go in the backyard. Just hang out. You know what I'm saying? Crack some jokes. I don't know. Literally, go buy a joke book and read them together. Like, something. If you're talking about marriage, some of y'all need to get this marriage getaway, by the way. We don't sit in sessions for 17 hours. We literally gather together. We're going to have some conversations, nothing too crazy, but it's also just about getting to know some people and also hanging out and having a good time. So, and the last thing is, what action step do I take today to add some fun to my life? Very practical, very practical. If you believe that fun matters, if you believe that God created you to have fun, and if he created, and you feel like you've lost that in life, y'all, I know that I've had moments like this where I've lost this. And it matters. Again, sometimes it doesn't sound like it matters that much, but I believe it does because it's worship to God. And for some of you, you might be deeply convicted right now about that. It's like, man, we got to do some work. We got to do some work. And cultivating an environment for fun, cultivating an environment for rest, cultivating an environment for work in your life, it takes work. It takes effort. It takes sitting down at the table and talking about it. You got to talk about it. If it's a marriage, if it's with kids, whatever it is, you have to talk and to come to conclusions about what it looks like. Me and my wife have very different definitions in some things about what is fun and what is not. So, man, hey baby, go do what you want to do. I ain't going to run a marathon. Sorry. I still think that's crazy, but anyway. You enjoy it. I'm glad you do. I'll wake up whenever you're done. But we got different definitions. Some things align, some things don't. But I understand what she needs for her as an individual to enjoy, God's creation. And for me, it might look different. I know it's very practical, but again, in your relationship, sometimes it is very, very practical. Very practical. This is the life that we live, man, Christians. Everything that we do is for the glory of God. Everything that we do.